Picture a swamp in what is now Cretaceous Montana, 76 million years ago. A low, wide shape moves through the ferns, dragging a tail tipped with a solid lump of bone the size of a tire. Predators faced a target with almost no vulnerable angle of attack. The Ankylosaurus had a back covered in hundreds of bony plates grown directly into the skin, and a skull reinforced with extra bone, fused so tightly that the original seams vanished. Armor provided a passive defense against a bite, but the tail functioned differently. Unlike the flexible whips used by other dinosaurs for balance, the back half of this tail was a rigid rod, a handle designed to stay straight and hard like the shaft of a hammer. This data visualization compares the calculated force of an adult tail swing against the impact needed to break bone. At 14,000 newtons, the club carried more than enough power to shatter the lower leg of a large predator. In the Cretaceous, an injury of that scale was lethal.
A hunter that cannot run cannot eat, turning a successful strike into a slow, terminal defense. The armor and club appear to align perfectly with a strategy designed for survival against predators. However, the physical evidence preserved in the fossils suggests the weapon was being used for a different purpose entirely. The physical strata of the Badlands hold the evidence for this shift in perspective. Biomechanical analysis shows the tail was a specialized tool with clear mechanical limits. Because the vertebrae were locked by overlapping bony tendons, it was restricted to a strict 100-degree lateral arc. Mapping a charging hunter shows a flank attack intersects with this sweep, placing its shins directly in the strike path. If the weapon was primarily built to break the shins of predators, the fossil record should show a specific pattern of damage: bite marks on the neck or shoulders where a hunter tried to get a grip, and thick armor scarred from frontal attacks. But those expected marks are not what researchers found. To find the weapon's true target, we have to look at the injuries that were actually sustained, and who was most likely to deliver them. This is a specimen of Zuul crurivastator, one of the most complete armored dinosaurs ever recovered. Because it was preserved with its skin and armor in place, it provides a forensic map of the animal's life history. The specimen is notably missing the damage typical of predator attacks. There are no heels bite marks on the head or neck, and the armor across the shoulders remains intact. The damage on Zuul is concentrated along the flanks and the hips. In these specific zones, the bony spikes were blunted and broken during the animal's life. These wounds were not fatal. The bone shows clear signs of healing, indicating it survived these impacts and lived long afterward. When two ankylosaurs stand side by side, their tail swings align with the location of these injuries. The 100-degree lateral arc of one lands directly on the flank and hips of the other. This forensic evidence suggests that the primary use of the tail club was not interspecies defense, but intraspecies competition. The weapon was being turned on other members of its own kind. This points to sexual selection as a primary driver of the club's evolution. Traits often become exaggerated over generations when they help animals win territory, dominance, or mates. The chronological development of the species supports this. The heavily armored body and the stiffened tail handle appeared first, likely as a baseline defense against being hunted. The heavy club head was a late addition to this blueprint, appearing millions of years after the armor was already established. The defense came first. The weapon used for fighting rivals was built on top of it. This pattern repeated in glyptodonts, car-sized armored mammals that lived long after the dinosaurs. Despite being unrelated to ankylosaurs, they independently evolved the same rigid tail handle and heavy striking club. This is convergent evolution. When two distinct groups arrive at the same mechanical solution, it reveals a pattern. The club was a repeatable outcome of internal species pressure. The presence of similar healed injuries in both glyptodonts and ankylosaurs indicates that ritualized social competition was a powerful force in shaping these heavy weapons. A clash between two ankylosaurs was a slow, deliberate test of strength. Instead of a desperate fight for survival, the animals would stand parallel, presenting their armored flanks to absorb the impact of the rival's club. These animals were built to take the punishment. The 14,000 Newton blows were absorbed by specialized armor, allowing them to trade strikes as they measured each other's power. These duels ended when one animal decided the fight was no longer worth the bruises. The loser would walk away, leaving the territory or mate to the winner, and the history of the contest was recorded in the animal's healed bone.
The weapon's origin in social competition did not diminish its effectiveness for survival. It remained capable of shattering a predator's leg when necessary, but its daily use was focused on settling arguments within the species. Survival was only half the story. The fossils of Zuul suggest these animals lived within complex social systems, where status was settled through ritualized physical tests. The most impressive features in the fossil record are often the result of multiple pressures working at once. Ankylosaurs were more than just walking tanks. They were social animals that settled their disputes with bone hammers.